All right, what's going on, guys? Phil Daru back again. Daru Strong Podcast, episode number 18 with my man Josh Bridges. Now, Josh is a U.S. Navy SEAL, just an all-around badass. CrossFit Games, 6 times. Let me get this right. 6 times with the CrossFit Games, 4-time regional champ, 7-time open winner. Plus, he wrestled in high school and at the University of Missouri. After that, went on and got his trident for the Navy SEALs. So the guy knows how to push the limits. So we got a interesting conversation, a very good enlightening conversation to actually go through what he does on a daily basis and how he got to the place where he is now. But before we do that, let me go ahead and shout out sponsor, Revive Subs, revivemd.com. Check them out. ReviveSubs.com is where you can find the supplements. All right, go to ReviveSubs.com. Check out my only Phil Daru Athlete Stack. You can only find it there at ReviveSubs.com. Also use the discount code Daru Strong 20 to get 20% off of my personal stack. We have omega-3s, vitamin D3, K2. We also have collagen. You also have adrenal support. You will be optimized from the entire level from an athlete perspective. So make sure that you go ahead, check it out, ReviveSubs.com, Daru Strong 20 for the discount code. Also, my mentorship, if you haven't done so, if you're a coach looking to learn some of my methods, some of the techniques that I use for all of my athletes, go ahead and check it out, darustrong.com. Basically what we're doing there is a portal. We have over 250 coaches from around the world that are learning from me personally. We also have bi-weekly calls that you can go ahead and give me all the questions that you need. Plus, you'll have complete access to me on my WhatsApp number. So make sure you check that out. Daru Strong Mentorship Course now available. Now, let's get on to the interview.
Welcome to the Daru Strong Podcast. Daru Strong Podcast.
Let's go. Mind over matter. Put your mind somewhere else and keep going. That little voice in your head is trying to stop you from getting to where you want to be. Be successful and keep moving forward.
With your host and world-renowned strength and conditioning coach, Phil Daru.
So we're recording now, man. So let's go into that. Let's go into the introduction. Where you came from. How you got started in the fitness industry.
Yeah, Josh Bridges. Former Navy SEAL, 6 times CrossFit Games athlete, wrestled in college, basically played sports my entire life, growing up, that was just, I have an older brother, and that was sports were what we did, organized sports. It was baseball. And then once I got into middle school, I started wrestling and then wrestled through high school and then a little bit into college. But we played, I did play a little bit of rugby, organized, and a little bit of soccer. So just loved playing sports, and that's what we did as kids. We were either on our bikes, riding our bikes around the neighborhood, causing trouble, or playing some sort of sport. Whether it was almost like whatever was in season, if it was hockey season, we were playing street hockey. If it was we played basketball. If it was football, we played football on the street. And we just did everything. And so I didn't really start lifting weights until maybe like 6th grade or 7th grade, which I guess isn't like that late, but that was like when I actually remember like starting to go into gyms and doing fitness. And so I remember the first time, I got to bench 135. I got to put 245s on the bar, and it felt
good. The benchmark right there.
But yeah, and then as I got older, went into college wrestling and then got out. And then there was like a gap of like a 3-year period, because I didn't wrestle, or I didn't stay in college for 4 years. I didn't graduate. I only went to college for a year. I thought I wanted to do the business world and, be a business guy. And I did I was a telemarketer for a year and a half, which was an awful it was an eye-opening thing for me to realize like, this is not what I want to do.
So is that because, sorry, Josh, I didn't mean to cut you off, but is that because like you didn't like sales, or is that because like procrastinate? Like, I know how it is, man. I didn't have that job, but I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends had that job, and they were like, man, it's just like bothering people every day. And like procrastination is key, or I should say persuasion, not procrastination. Persuasion is key, and it's hard to persuade somebody that doesn't want to talk to you anyways. So, I mean, that's probably what it was, right?
It was terrible. Yeah, you felt awful. The job was like, you literally had a headset on, and you got a foot like you didn't even actually call people. Like it was a automated thing where they would call it for you. Then you, as someone picked up, like your computer screen would pop up with a script that you read.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment they hung up, you got another call. It was nonstop. It was like boom, 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 boom. Like you got like a 30-minute lunch and like 2 15-minute breaks in your 8-hour day. It was terrible. It was not a fun life.
No.
And so I did a year and a half of that. And, then I got a job I was a loan officer. So doing like refinances, purchases. And I did that for about 3 years. Still just like in that time frame, I did start to like work out again. And I was like, okay, I need to do something. And, I started to, go into the gym and just bodybuild and run and, and swim and stuff like that. And then, a buddy and the loan officer, who was a buddy of mine who was a loan officer as well. He was the guy who actually taught me about CrossFit. And this was in January of 2005. So like way before it got big.
Yeah. When was the first games? When was the first CrossFit Games? It was
2007. Yeah, 2007. Yep. And so in 2005, it was like January. It was like real early in the year. And he's like, hey, we went and grabbed lunch, and he was just like talking to me. He's like, I'm going to go try and be a Navy SEAL. And this is what these guys use. Some of these guys use CrossFit to get in shape. And I like, so I go and I, look at it, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'll go work out with you. And fell in love with it immediately. I thought the ideology behind CrossFit was cool. It was like, it was before I knew it was actually ever going to be a sport. I loved the competitive side of it, where it was like, it was always a race. It was like, or who can get the most rounds in this amount of time, or who can do this workout the fastest, this 21-15-9 scheme, or these chipper style workouts. Mm-hmm. And I just loved the competitive side of it, because having an older brother, and I've just always been competitive, and I've hated losing my entire life. And so since I was a small kid, like a lot of guys, and so I really like fell in love with CrossFit. And I was, doing the loan officer gig, and I was like, this just is not what I want to do. This is not where I see myself. I remember sitting in this cubicle just being like, is this where I see myself in 40 years, like still doing this job? Mm-hmm. And I was just like, no. And I'd always had a little bit of a thought about going into the military. I almost actually went into the Air Force right out of high school, with a buddy, and decided, actually, I had gotten in a little bit of trouble. I had something on my record. I had like a minor in possession of alcohol or something like that. And so I couldn't actually get into the Air Force at the time. They were like really strict. They weren't needing recruits. And so it wasn't a big deal. So for them, it was like, no, we're not going to waive that. So you have to wait until that's like cleaned up. Okay. So actually, and then, in hindsight, I'm glad it happened, but, anyway, so I'm like, so I started looking back at this Navy SEAL. I was like, I had no idea what a Navy SEAL. I never even heard like the term Navy SEAL. And because I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. That's where where I'm from originally. And so I knew what Marines and Army Rangers were, right? Like, but other than that, like my family wasn't military. Like nobody in my family was military. It was just nothing. I thought a little bit about it, but like never really like looked into it. And so I started looking into what Navy SEALs were, and, I was like, okay, yeah, cool, let's do this. I think it's now or never kind of thing.
So hold on. So when you did that, right? Because I know everybody's probably seen the Buds training, right? Did you look into it? Did you go like, oh, let me go search? I don't even think YouTube was that big at the time, so you probably couldn't even YouTube it or like Google it.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton. There was the Discovery video, the 234 video.
Okay.
And so that was out already.
Okay.
When I had gone in, and then there was some books you could read, Dick Couch books.
Okay.
And so those were the books that I read. That basically, like Dick Couch was, he's got a few books out there, and I don't know how popular they are anymore, but like that's what my buddy who had like, this was like his lifelong dream was to be a Navy SEAL. And he's like, read this book, read this book, read this book. I was like, okay, cool. So I had a little bit of, help to figure out. And I was like, I kind of started looking into it, and it's like, toughest military training in the world. I'm like, you know what, I'm in, let's do this, And so I gave myself about a year and a half to train for it. And I used the CrossFit ideology and running and swimming. And I remember seeing my high school wrestling coach, who our wrestling program was actually really good. We had won state like 4 or 5 times as a team. Missouri's not like the best wrestling state, but it's definitely it's on the better side.
Yeah, it's
and
okay,
so
for sure.
yeah, and so I had a really great coach. He was an All-American at Mizzou, Craig Martin, and I just remember going to Craig afterwards and being like, you need to start your wrestling program on this stuff, on CrossFit. Like I'm telling you right now, he was ruthless. Like he put us through some of the hardest workouts I'd ever been through. And up until I went into college wrestling, college wrestling was insane. Like I was just like, I never experienced anything like it. It was another level. It was like, whoa. And I thought I thought high school wrestling was obviously really tough. College wrestling was insane. But I remember just telling, my wrestling Craig, I was like, listen, you need to get your wrestlers on this stuff, like this CrossFit stuff. It's real deal. Like I've never felt I'm in amazing shape. I've never felt this way before. And he didn't listen until like 10 years later. But anyways, so I go back and I gave myself a year and a half to train to get into the military, and then I went in, and I went through one class, 266, no rollbacks, no injury rollbacks, which is huge, and I wholeheartedly believe it was just the way that I prepared to go in. So, and I was ready.
Yeah. So like when you went there, did you have a lot of dropout rates? Obviously it's a huge retention, right?
So
yeah. So I want to say our class started with like, it was like 280, around 280 guys or so. And we ended third phase with 44. And only 19 of us were from the original start of 266. Wow. So we have, like throughout the process, right, you get rollback like that are either injured or fail something, and they roll it back into your class from the class ahead of you. And so there was actually only 19 of us that originally started with 266 and went straight through, and there was 44 of us at the end. Gotcha.
Okay. Now, what did you feel was like the most challenging? Was it the more mental side of it, or obviously, or the physical side of it? I know you were in shape, but I mean, were you in shape with not having that amount of sleep and all these other things thrown at you, right? So what do you think was kind of more the most challenging aspect of it?
For me personally, the cold water. Like I hated the cold water. I was not a fan of the cold water. You just had to deal with it, and that was something I felt like I'm good at dealing with misery. Mm-hmm. And like just being okay with being in a terrible situation, like not being comfortable, I guess is the best way to put it. And so that was by far I felt like the most challenging. The physical stuff was definitely challenging, mm-hmm. but for me, I felt very prepared. Like I didn't never have like a lot of guys get like shin splints from because you're always on your feet. A lot of guys will just get these like injuries that they have to roll back into another class for. And I was just physically, I felt so prepared because of how I trained, and mentally definitely got tough. It was just, I think I went into it a little bit older. I was a little bit more mature. I had dealt with seeing what the business world was like, and that I knew I didn't want to be a part of that. And this is what I wanted 100%. I wanted to do a job that, was, I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to also, just do a really cool job, which is what the Navy, what we do. We jump out of planes, we shoot guns and blow things up. It's a great time. And so, it was, for me, it was easier to like sit back and be like, this sucks right now. This is tough. This is hard, but this is what I want to do. And I'd rather be in this type of misery than in a cubicle for 8 hours a day. So I had perspective, which was
for sure. I think that's one thing that sets people apart, is like going through some certain situations that you did not like in the past and was like, yeah, I'm never going back to that shit. So this isn't that bad. So I'm gonna keep doing this, which is awesome, man. Like, and that's funny. Do you feel like that's why a lot of people quit, is because they're not truly ready mentally for the demands that are placed upon them inside of that, just buds in general. And then after that, you have all these other sections, right? There's other stages that people don't really pass, and it's just because they don't have the mental fortitude. Now, you had CrossFit, and then you had your perspective on, okay, I don't want to go back there, but a lot of these kids you see nowadays are getting in there, jumping in there, feeling like they're ready, but they're really not, and they're the ones ringing the bell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I agree completely. I think that maturity is a huge aspect of it. And a lot of these guys who come straight out of high school are like, hey, I'm ready to go. And they don't realize they don't know exactly what it's going to feel like when they haven't slept, but for, like 3 hours a night in month 4 of training. And, they're constantly, every day is a test. Every day is a test, right? It's not just one test. It's, there's not the test at the end of the week. Every day is a single test, right? And you have instructors yelling at you every single day. And you have to be able to handle that, right? You have to be like, it's okay. Like, it's not a big deal. And luckily I was completely fine with being yelled at. It didn't bother me at all. I was like, good, I'm getting yelled at. Like, that, it is what it is. Like, it's like, this guy has a job to do. He's a gatekeeper. He's trying to keep certain types of people out of this profession, and he has a job to do. And like, he's not personally attacking me. He's just trying to make sure that I'm not one of those people that shouldn't be here. So, but yeah, I agree. And then people can't understand, like, they can't get past how long it is, right? I mean, the full training, you do 6 months in buds, and then you go straight into SQT, which is another SEAL qualification training before you get your trident. And it's a long, grueling process. And and then once you get your trident and you go to your team for the first 2 years, you're nobody, right? You've done nothing that anybody else there. Yeah. You've done nothing there that anybody else hasn't done already. And, you go from like feeling like you're on top of the world when the day you get your trident to the day you show up to your team, like, oh, I'm just a piece of shit again. Like I'm just a turd. And so, in those first 2 years, man, like, they're tough. Like, as you're called, you're a fucking new guy is what they say, F and G. And so, you do the extra work and you stay longer, and you have to also then still take care of your gear, and you just gain more responsibility as it goes on. Mm-hmm. So now not only do you have to be accountable, for yourself, but you also have these things inside the team where you have to take care of team gear. And everyone always wants to talk about buds and SBT, and that they're a very tough process. And, it's definitely like, that's what people see in the movies and read about and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, the training that you do inside the team is 10 times harder. I mean, the things that we had to do inside the team were insane, but you just couldn't quit at that point. It was like, that wasn't the option.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I know that that's what people see, and that's one thing. Like, people, and it's the same thing with me with the fighting game. It's, people think that a lot of times fights are hard, but really they don't get to see the grueling hours in the training room. And especially, I think you had the best upbringing when it comes to having to handle that, because you were a wrestler, right? You always have to deal with those types of problems, right? Or those, the challenges there that come with wrestling, going from high school to college, and then doing CrossFit, which is obviously physically and mentally grueling. Then going into that was just another day in the life of Josh Bridges. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, this is a normal day. Yeah, I just push myself to the fucking brink, and that's it,
And I had beachfront property. You know what I mean? Like, I literally, our barracks were on the beach. I could literally open my window at nighttime and hear the waves crashing. I'm like, and I'm, growing up in St. Louis, I'm like, this is legit. Like, I don't care how crappy this sucks. I can live on the beach, So, no, yeah, exactly. It is all about perspective. And so I had a great, we were outside. We had our mom didn't let us sit in and play video games all day. And like, and I had an older brother that, it was great. It was just a, perfect storm, I guess you could say.
Nice. Okay. So now you get out, right? How long were you in SEAL teams?
So I was in for 8.5 years, from 2007 until 2015.
Gotcha. Now, were you still competing in CrossFit, or did it start to you after you got out?
No, yeah. So I started competing when I was in. It
Okay.
was my second workup. So as a SEAL, you have a 2-year workup a 2-year cycle, right? An 18-month workup into a 6-month deployment. At least when I was in, it changes constantly. But that was what we did. And so I had the opportunity straight out of training. I actually deployed straight over to Iraq in 2008, like literally like graduated, got my trident, and went to our team at SEAL Team 3, and SEAL Team 3 was deployed at the time.
Okay.
And they're like, go pack your stuff. You're deploying and you're going to go meet your platoons overseas. And we're all like, all right, sounds good. And so I got a little bit of, I got really lucky and I got a little bit of a taste of a deployment before I had actually done a full workup to go deploy. And that was actually really cool because Chris Kyle is actually my LPO. So he was my first boss, I guess. And LPO is your lead petty officer. So Chris was my first LPO. So that was really cool. I got the opportunity to, learn some cool things from him. And then for a short period of time. And then we came back and we started our first workup. And so as a new guy, so this was 2008. So 2009 was my first workup. And then my second deployment to Iraq was in 2010. Once you come back, once you do your new guy platoon, like you have a little bit, you still have things to handle, but you're not like, you don't have to do a lot of the little silly crap that just takes a lot of time up. And so in 2011, I asked my chief, I was like, hey, there's this thing called the CrossFit Games. Like, I do a lot of CrossFit still, and I really enjoy it. And the season lined up really well with our training. Okay. And so I didn't have to miss much training. I think I only missed 2 days to do any of the season. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, is it okay if I miss those 2 days and hopefully, go to the games? And he's like, well, do you think you can win? And I'm like, well, I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't think I could win. And so he's like, well, and he only knew a little bit about CrossFit. He's like, well, what's your frame time? And that's like that staple question.
Yeah. What's your bench press? That's
right. Exactly. Right. It's that staple question, of CrossFitters. And I was like, well, it's 202. And he's like, okay, I'll let you go give it a shot. And so, I got to compete in that first year and did really well. I took second in the open, which is that first qualifier. I won my regional and then ended up taking second at the CrossFit Games that year. Nice. And looking back at it, it was like, I can't believe I actually even did that. It was like in the middle of a work, I was our training, like leading up, like 2 deployments are grueling, right? Like we're out in the desert, we're constantly traveling on the road, sleeping so little. And I look back and I'm like, and I would literally like so we had this thing called in land warfare, right? Where we'll go out and we'll do immediate action drills where basically like you're patrolling in the desert and then you'll take contact from a direction and then you're like literally fighting your way either, offensively or defensively out of the situation. And, where do we do it in the desert? It's like 120 degrees. You do it for like 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, and then 3 hours at night with like these little breaks. And like during those little breaks, right, like everyone's trying to get some sleep, grab a little food, put in their stomach, and get ready for the next evolution. Where I'm like, I literally was going into the gym and working out. It was like ridiculous. I was like, I look back and I'm like, I don't know how the hell I did that.
Yeah.
So,
how old were you then at that point?
So that was 2011. So I would have been like 27.
Okay, man. I mean, I know, like for a fact, like right now, I can't do the shit that I did. I'm 31 right now. I can't do the shit that I did at 22, 23. That you know what I'm saying? I can't do it. So that, you had some youth on your side too, as well, to a degree. But didn't you think like that actually would probably get you more ready? Not more ready, but that still gave you a training stimulus in a sense, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. It definitely had its advantages, but when it came to like training specific CrossFit stuff, that was what was hard, right? And so yes, I was definitely in great shape from that stuff. Like carrying gear all the time and, you know, running around in the desert, right? Like, exactly. Like you became fit because of that. It was just a different style of fitness, I guess.
Nice. All right. So now let's fast forward, because now, like, so when did you you got into the games, correct? In what year was that again?
2011.
Okay, so 2011, right? It wasn't as big as it is now, right? Didn't have ESPN. Did it have ESPN at that point?
You know what? I think that might have been the first year. 2011 might have been the first year they did have it on ESPN.
Okay.
Those early days they did. And so prior to 2011, it was a lot smaller. And then
Gotcha.
2011, I felt like was like the first big year. That was when Reebok came in and they had like the $1 million purse.
Gotcha.
And I think they did actually have, they aired it on ESPN later on in the year. It wasn't ever live. It was always like taped and then cut up and then put on later in the year. So yeah, it was a little bit, it's definitely every year though, it's grown substantially, right? It's, you know, more people doing it, more athletes, more people getting involved.
Sure. Where do you see CrossFit going now? I know there's like, it hasn't had the rise. I feel like the peak of it was like, I want to say 2015, 2016 maybe. Now, where do you see it going from here? Like the future of CrossFit?
Man, I don't know. Like now, like right now, CrossFit it's on fire. I don't know what's happening. You know, like with everything, it's crazy. You know, the CEO, the founder, Greg Glassman, made some very dumb comments and, you know, insensitive comments that, you know, was just really not very smart. And ended up having to sell, you know, he had to retire and then ended up selling his own company.
Really?
And so, yeah, so now they have a new CEO and a new owner of the company, which is really cool. And he's, I don't know a lot about the new guy. His name's like Eric Rosa. He's like he had a tech company that he sold for a lot of money. I don't know the specifics, so I don't even want to like pretend to guess. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. You know, Dave Castro, who was also a SEAL and an instructor of mine while I was in, is the guy who actually, you know, kind of came up and it was his baby, the CrossFit Games, actually creating it a sport out of it.
Uh-huh.
And so he is still there, and and I think that you know, I think he'll figure this all out. As you know, we'll get past this part right now, because what CrossFit has done for so many different people, it's just made people live a healthier lifestyle, right? And so it's done a lot of good for people, and I think we can get past one person's comments, and you know, especially now that he's out of the picture.
Yeah. You can't really chastise an entire industry based off of one individual. You know, everybody has their own opinions, you know what I'm saying? So he just voiced the wrong one. But all right, so let's get into these IG questions, because I know people are gonna get mad at me if I don't ask you these things. All right, so first one, all right, I think you kind of hit on this, but what are the major differences from training as a soldier and as a CrossFit athlete? Like, what's the differences there?
Yeah, I think training as a soldier, right? You need a more well-rounded, like you just want to be in shape. You don't need these sport-specific style of training, right? So a GPP program, you know, and it's for me, I still like doing you know, like I said, I train CrossFit. That's how I did it, and I feel like I believe in the ideology. I believe in, you know, functionally fit. I'm trying to come up with the right CrossFit's definition of fitness. It's like you know, like functional movements done at a high intensity over broad domains, right? And so and I believe in that, right? I think that that's true. I think that that's a great way. I think for soldiers, right, you need to be able to run, move, you know, carry a load, right? Because you're going to have to typically wear body armor, and maybe, you know, like we did so many down man drills, and that was something like, I think having strong legs is a huge part of it. I wouldn't focus on upper body strength as much for a soldier. I would, you know, definitely just really, really strong legs. It was like, for me, I never had any issues with, I was one of the shorter guys. Obviously I'm only 5'5", about 170 pounds. And, I never had any issues picking up a 200-pound guy who probably had 30, 40 pounds of gear on him, throwing him over my shoulder and running with him. Like it just.
I don't know, Josh. You're a fucking anomaly, bro. All right, you can't be saying that shit for everybody. I just tossed him over my shoulder and we kept it moving. Like
it was just
so. My bad.
But listen, no, you're good. It was just something I think I prided myself in too. It was like I knew that how people would perceive me as being a smaller guy, and I was like, they're never gonna have to like worry if I'm gonna be able to do my job. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like having strong legs was a huge focus of me. And I think CrossFit style of working out is a phenomenal way to get strong legs. Like you're constant, like, my legs felt insanely strong for that. And I was able to run too. So it was good. And then when you want to train for CrossFit though, you just have to really add in those specific things that you're going to be tested on, right? You're going to be tested on, you're always going to be tested on some sort of Olympic weightlifting. You're probably going to have some sort of strength. So, you have to still do your powerlifting workout. You have to do your deadlifts and your squatting and your benching because you just never know what's going to come up.
Yeah.
And then you have your gymnastic skills that you have to keep up with.
Yeah.
You have your, your muscle ups, your handstand push-ups.
I honestly think like as a gymnast, they're one of the most talented athletes in the world from a movement perspective, right? And they have true functional strength, in my opinion. I don't know how much validity functional has nowadays, but again, I don't like to throw that word around loosely, but from a functionality standpoint, I think that can carry over so good to anything you're doing, especially in combat. So with CrossFit, it has those in there, right? So with me, I'm looking at it from a general, like you said, a GPP approach. We're hitting, multiple modalities of training, and we're getting the body ready to cope with those stresses at any given time, right? You're not a specialist, but you're staying strong in all these different positions, and you have the conditioning to go through a long endured, whatever it be, a run, something along the lines of that. Because you're gonna be, for you guys, it's more of it's not much. I would say it's endurance, but you also need to have strength too as well. So that's what CrossFit is in a sense, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. I think I completely agree with you with gymnasts. I think that they are very like, they move their body really well. And then they're like, and just so strong in those like weird positions on rings and on their hands. And, they're just but I was completely agree. And yes, that's exactly what CrossFit is. And so if a gymnast comes in and they can learn how to do a longer duration runs and swims and rows and things like that, they're going to do phenomenal at it.
100%. Okay, let's go to the next question. So this one is from actually one of my athletes. She's a judo Olympian, Angelica Delgado. And of course she's going to ask you, do you think CrossFit should be an Olympic sport? Coming from the Olympian herself.
Right, yeah. I think that it could be. I don't think that it would be really tough, right? Because again, the qualification process, that's the thing about CrossFit is how CrossFitters define their sport is it can basically be anything, right? Like we have to be prepared for anything. So then you have to come up with a way to qualify them to the Olympics because they've done it for the games, right? Our Super Bowl or our whatever, our world tournament. They've done a good job of basically you have the open and then you have now it's called sanctionals. They're not regionals anymore. And you have to go to a sanctional event and basically qualify through that. So coming up with a qualification process for the Olympics would be the tough thing I think to do. Could it be an Olympic sport? I think so. I think that, we already we're already very inclusive of the world. It's not like it's just the United States, right? So I think that it is a global sport. So it could be, it would just be the qualification process. How do we get these athletes there? And then, so that's the tough part. I don't know if I'd call it, if it's ready for it, if it's ready to be there yet, but maybe at some point it will be.
It's the same thing we go through with like jiu-jitsu and trying to sanction that as an Olympic sport too as well. There's just so much that it entails. going into it, but yeah, I get it. And honestly, if they have curling, fuck is curling. They have that. Let's go. Hey, I'm mad. Listen, if you are the best ping pong player in the world, I give you your props. But at the end of the day, man, that takes some skill. But I think we all can have some type of play in the Olympics at some point with some sport.
Exactly.
All right, next question. So this one is basically asking the practices that you used, or I should say the practices that you were using as a SEAL. Are you still implementing that into your daily life, and why do you do it? If you do it. So I would guess he's talking about maybe routines, maybe, something along the lines of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you don't learn from your past experiences, your past life things that you did, then it's going to be hard for you to go down the road, right? You're going to continue to make lots of mistakes, right? It's like anything. I learned so much being in the teams. I had so many great mentors that taught me so many great lessons. And so, yes, I do. I definitely still use and try to implement them and try to teach them to my children, my 2 young boys. And I get up and I always make my bed in the morning. And, as silly as it sounds, it's like accomplishing something first thing off the bat. It's not really about making your bed. It's about waking up and being productive immediately, right? Like I get up and I make my bed. It's the first thing I do. And then I typically, this isn't actually something I did in the military, but it was something that I needed. Like for me, I typically go out and I get in a cold tub that's like 30. I keep it around 35 degrees, and I sit in it for like 3 minutes, doing like some breathing meditation style breathing. And people ask me why I do it, and I'm like, well, I've heard that there are some benefits to it where it can help with your immune system and getting inflammation out of the body. And really why I do it is because I hate cold water, and I'll never let it beat me. You know what I mean? I'm never going to let cold water win. So I go out and I sit in cold water because I hate it so much that I know that like cold water has this hold over me. And I was told one day, I had a mentor tell me, you should do something every day that scares you. And cold water scares the shit out of me. So I'm going to go sit in it every day to let it know that you don't win, I win. So, so yeah, I definitely do. There's definitely some things that I will always do for the rest of my life. And so,
perfect.
And I think that's just how people should always probably, right? Learn from your past experiences and grow from them.
That's it. That's the only way you do grow, to be honest, in a lot of ways. All right. So now I guess the next one would be, this one's kind of like more of a programming perspective question. Tips on increasing 5K running time. Would you know how to? Honestly, that is super. That's hard because you need more context. But I mean, what would you do if you needed to get your 5K up? What would you do?
Right. So for me as a CrossFit athlete, right, I can't solely focus on something like running. But what I would do is if I knew that I struggled at it, then I did get some great programming tips from I don't know if you probably heard his name, Alberto Salazar. I think he actually recently got in trouble, but he was like the longtime Oregon Project Nike running coach.
Okay.
I think he's got like the world record in the 5K actually, or used to, or something like that. The time I remember, it was something crazy. And I don't want to pretend to like guess, but it was like, I want to say it was around like 12 or 13 minutes, something like that, something crazy. But I actually got to meet him because Nike was one of my sponsors, or is one of my sponsors, sorry. And actually someone asked that exact same question. They're like, how do I increase my 5K time? Mm-hmm. And he said, you need to run 3 times a week. You need to obviously run a 5K. And it's more of like you're not really trying to run all out your 5K, but you're trying to, have like a 80 to 85, 90%-ish style run, right? That's one of your runs a week. The other one is you're going to do like 6 by 800 meters with 2 to 3 minutes rest between those. And you want to do those paces a little faster than you would run your 5K pace at. And then you want to have a day of 400 meters. And it's like I can't remember how many it was. I want to say it was like 400 meters. And you want to run those faster than your 800 meter paces, right? And 2 to 3 times. So that's
almost like a sprint, right? Like a long distance sprint.
Yeah. Right. And so that's your 3 running days. And if you continue to do those 3 times a week, your 5K time will slowly come down.
That's interesting. So that's basically like undulation, right? You're doing daily undulation on particular distances. That makes a whole lot of sense. That's what we do when it comes down to strength training for the fighters and for any athlete that I have. But yeah, it makes a lot more sense than just going out there and just hitting a 5K at your hardest pace ever.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So hope that helps, man. So make sure you don't fuck this up.
By the way.
All right. So the last one I got is, this is a pretty good one. Does standard CrossFit WODs, just standard ones that they have at any CrossFit gym, is that optimal for someone looking to compete in the games as you're getting ready for the games? Or do you go more specified? Do you do just like you were talking about with undulation and working on particular modalities and specifying that?
I think if you're trying to go to the games, you're going to need to get a competitor style programming than just a day-to-day CrossFit. Because exactly, like everyone that goes into a CrossFit gym isn't looking to go to the CrossFit Games. Some people are just going in there to be fit. And so typical CrossFit gyms are going to program a GPP style programming, right? They're going to they're basically just, they're going to hit a bunch of different broad domains or broad movements over different time domains. And, constantly changing them. They're constantly varied, where exactly in a CrossFit competitor style of programming, you're still going to do all of like those Metcon, the metabolic conditioning style workouts, but you're also going to have to do a ton of accessory work, right? Which for us is your strength with your monostructural workout, right? You're running, you're swimming, you're rowing. And then you're going to have to implement those into workouts, right? So it's like, not only will you have to do them solely by themselves, but then you have to be like, okay, now I have to add some running into a workout and see how I feel when I run and do deadlifts or run and do power cleans and run and or do muscle ups. So it's very much, it's a lot more, you have to do a lot more, right? The volume's going to go up because you have to be able to handle the volume for a competitor, where you can't just go in and do one workout. Like that's just not where the sport's at anymore, right? The tests that are coming in a sense, right? That at sanctioned events, you're going to have 2 to 3 day competition where you're going to have 8 to 10 workouts. And then when you get to the games, you're going to have a 4-day competition that's typically going to be about 15 workouts in 4 days. So you just have to understand that, yeah, exactly. Like the volume's going to have to be there, and you're going to have to train so many different ways. So no, I don't think that you could go into any CrossFit gym, just do their regular programming and then try to go to the games.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I mean, I think I watched Rich Froning maybe like 6 or 7 years ago doing like 7 workouts in one day. And I was like, that's insane, man. Like
Rich is a beast, man. It actually became, he was like the standard, right? He was one of the first guys who was putting in the volume at that type, and you saw it pay off, right? I mean, he was the face of CrossFit. He was the first guy, right? He was, the 4-time champ into the 4-time team champ. It's like, it's crazy. And the guy's work ethic is everything he's gotten is because he's earned it, and he worked really, really hard.
He's like the LeBron James of CrossFit right now, or was at that point.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, well, I got 2 questions that I usually ask all my guests. And this is kind of selfish, but fuck it, I know people like it. You know what I mean? So that's all we're going to do. So the first one is, I always like to find out other people, successful people. I like to know what they do on a daily basis. What's their daily routine? We can start from the morning when you wake up, and then we're going further on in through the day. So what is your routine each day?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely gradually changed. When I was, hard into competing, I'm coming off 2 surgeries last year, and so still kind of tailored to that. Where I'm not pushing yet again. I'm not sure where I'm going to be competing at or whatever, but I'll give you a day of when I was competing, to be honest. And so, because right now it's a little bit different, but I would wake up and I would have my coffee. I would typically go out and do my first workout, or have a coffee and breakfast. And I would go out and I would do my first workout. I would typically start with strength. I would get some strength in, because for me, strength was one of my weaknesses. I was, I was a smaller guy. So I had to work at my strength a lot. And so I'd start with some strength, and then I would go into 1 to 2 conditioning pieces right after that. After I finished that up, that would put me into lunch. I would go eat some lunch. I would have a second coffee typically, and then I would go back out and I'd hit my second session, which typically was some sort of conditioning with like weight. So it wasn't just conditioning. It wasn't just running or just, lightweight CrossFit movements, but it was, I always really liked to be able to move my 80 to 90% of my maxes, like forever. I used to want to be able to do that. I called them power endurance style workouts, where I would take 225 power cleans, and I would do 5 on the minute for 10 minutes, and then maybe add some burpees in with them or something like that. And then I would do another conditioning piece, and then end with a monostructural. So it was either running, just purely running, swimming, or rowing, or biking. And so, and that would take me into dinner time, eat some dinner. And after that, kind of start to relax, stretch a little bit. And then if I, felt energized, I'd maybe go out and hit another workout. And if not, then I would probably just
fucking crazy, man. I just fucking go hit another workout. I don't got nothing else to do.
Yeah, exactly. If I was bored, I'd go hit another workout. And if not, I'd, relax, maybe watch some TV or read, something like that. And then go to bed and wake up and do it again. And that was like when I was, when I'm in season competing hard, like that's pretty much the day. Now I have kids, so it does definitely, I've had kids. And so like the kids' schedule is really what I have to start to work around. Right. And so that, there's schools picking them up and dropping them off at school. There's sports, right. They're both in wrestling and baseball. And so, like their schedules would start to, that was okay, I'm going to go, I this time I have to just juggle that kind of thing. Right now it's juggling. But like when I was in like hardcore season, like that was a typical day for me. Now it's like I'm working out, I have my coffee business. And so, I launched a coffee company. And so,
what's the coffee company? Hold on. I drink a lot of fucking coffee.
Oh, okay.
So Josh, what's the coffee company?
Good dudes. Dudes.
All right, I'm gonna check that out
because we need.
I'll send you some, brother.
My man, so I appreciate that.
What kind of coffee do you like? Do you like a lighter roast, a darker roast?
I like a dark roast. I'm a dark roast guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You like whiskey? Are you a whiskey guy or no?
I'm not a whiskey guy. I'm a beer guy.
You're a beer guy? I'll give you that. All right. I was about to say we're about to connect on whole new levels right now.
Yeah, I never acquired the taste for whiskey. I've tried. I had every time when my first son was born, I had like a nice bottle of whiskey, and I still, even the good whiskey, I was like, it's a waste on me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just feel like a grown ass man. I feel like my beard gets longer
every time.
It probably does. You got a solid beard. I
appreciate that.
I can't grow a beard. This is literally like people are always like, people think I shaved this.
On another level, by the way.
You almost look like fucking Captain Morgan over there. I like it though, man. It's killing the game. I like it. All right, so so the next question. Now this one, it usually takes people back a little bit because you got to think about it, and it doesn't mean physical. It could be physical, but for the most part, I'm looking more from a mental side. What does a strong person mean to you? Like, what is the definition of a strong individual? You take your time on it.
Man, that's a tough question. Yeah, that's a great question though. I like it because exactly like being strong doesn't mean that you're physically strong. Being strong means that when you feel weak, right, you keep moving. To me, a strong individual is typically a leader who leads from the front and by example, and not just by talking with words. A strong person is someone who does the task no matter like how scared or how uncomfortable they may feel during like going into that task. It's something I teach my kids all the time, right? It's like, just because you're scared, like being scared of something doesn't mean that, it's not a bad thing. Like, we're all scared. I'm like, Dad's been scared before, but being brave is when you're scared and you still perform that task. Yep. And so, I think being strong is just another word for brave. But yeah, so like, I think that, someone who leads from the front, someone who, even when they feel weak, they continue to move and don't give up. They hold themselves accountable in every aspect of their life. And so, that's what I'd say my definition of a strong person is.
It's a great answer, bro. So, and you definitely solidify that. It's a true definition of yourself. You know what I mean? So I do want to thank you for coming on the podcast. It's an honor, pleasure as always. Hopefully I can link up with you. Either you come down to Florida or maybe I'll go to San Diego, man, when all this madness kind of ends a little bit more. Yeah, but I definitely want to get out there. I've been watching some of the YouTube videos, man, you working out in the garage. Listen, but I'm going to tell you this, though, okay? We do these damn conditioning WODs or whatever you're doing. All right, give me a little bit of time, okay? It's been a minute. Go ahead and obviously push the brand. Say everything that you need to. Social media platforms or YouTube channel. The floor is yours.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been an honor and a privilege for me to get to sit here and chat with you, because I know that you do I love talking to people who like to do awesome shit, and you're definitely doing awesome shit, man. And so, seeing the guys that you're getting to work with, and you're pushing the most elite athletes out there, and you're pushing them farther and better. And so it's really cool, and it was an honor for me to get to sit and chat with you. So, but yeah, for me, if you find out what I'm doing, I have my website, josh-bridges.com. It's where I have my mental preparation and some of my programming. I offer like a military style programming and a competitive programming. My YouTube channel is another great resource. Right now we're in this weird position where we lost our videographer, but we'll have more videos coming down the road. And then, if you like coffee and good coffee, like I love coffee. Like, it's been a huge passion of mine. And so gooddudescoffee.com. And we'll be sending you some. We'll get you guys some out there. So yeah, I appreciate it.
We're gonna drink the shit out of that coffee. I'll tell you that right now. You got a banner? I'm gonna put it up behind me so we can make sure
we'll get you one for sure.
Perfect, man. All right, guys. So this is episode 18. Josh Bridges. Thanks again, brother, and I'm out.